thank you for being here. We just love you, and this conference is such a special occasion. We hope you find joy in being here this morning. The thoughts that we have prepared for you, we only have about 40 minutes to work through them, and so if you have any thoughts or feelings as we go along, we don't want this to only just be something that we talk. If you have something you'd like to interject or ask a question or make a comment, raise your hand and we'll do our best with the time that we have to work through that. But I just wanted to say thank you for letting us come and speak with you here this morning. I'm grateful to be here with my companions. You know, I don't usually ever get to sit up here on the stand with her. So today is a neat little special occasion for us. So we're going to have Sister McElhaney start us off.
I feel really overwhelmed. I am just thrilled that they're videotaping this and going to have it for posterity. So, no, I feel as I was approached on teaching this class, my very first thought is, what do I know about love after marriage? And I don't want anyone to feel like I'm preaching or I have it all together, because I don't. But I'm excited to be here as well. And as I was preparing, and my husband asked me, how are you feeling about things? And I was like, I'm nervous because I'm not nervous, so something's wrong. But I look out and I see so many of you that I know, and I feel so comfortable. And I also feel very passionate about the subject of marriage. And we know, and I'm very emotional as I forget to get more Kleenex. We know how attacked marriage is being right now. And if we as women don't stand up for it, who will? And who is teaching our children how important marriage is? When we moved out here to Queen Creek a little over 11 years ago, we had the opportunity to team teach the marriage family relations class. And that has by far been my favorite calling. I was just had an interview with someone, and they asked me, what was your favorite calling? And I said, marriage family relations. And they're like, wow, usually people have to think about what their favorite calling was. And hands down, my favorite calling, because I got to do it with my husband. And we learned so much from that class, and we're able to put so much of what we were learning into our marriage and strengthened it through that calling. It was short-lived. It was only 7 months that we got to do that before he was called to be in the bishopric, and so then that class ended. A few days after we were married, I woke up, while on our honeymoon, I woke up early, feeling very sick of my stomach, and bolted to the bathroom and made it just in time to throw up, and throw up quite a bit. And as I was throwing up, I heard my husband get up out of bed, and I thought, oh good, he's coming to help me, because I'm a violent throw-upper. And he came and walked to the bathroom and proceeded to shut the bathroom door. Dallin Choke says, a good marriage does not require a perfect man or a perfect woman. It only requires a man and a woman committed to strive together towards perfection. Now, so you don't think my husband is heartless. Growing up in my home, when you would throw up, my mom would come and hold my hair. I used to have long hair. She would hold my hair back for me and have a cold, wet rag all ready for me to clean myself. Growing up in my husband's home, it was a very personal, private matter. The last thing you wanted was someone with you or listening to you. We have laughed about this story, and we have retold this story, the throwing up story, many times. By the way, he no longer shuts the door when I throw up. We learned very quickly in our marriage that not only were we completely different, because he's a man and I'm a woman, and that we're two very strong-willed people, but we both have been raised totally different. We had different views and ideas of what marriage was, what each other's roles were. Elder F. Burton Howard, in referring to eternal marriage, said, "Eternal implies continuing growth and improvement. It means that man and wife will honestly try to perfect themselves. It signifies that love will grow stronger with time and that it extends beyond the grave. It means that each partner will be blessed with the company of the other partner forever, and that problems and differences might as well be resolved now because they are not going away." As a young couple in preparation for their soon-to-be marriage, they went and registered at a department store for gifts. And the young bride, or soon-to-be bride, did not register for pots and pans and dish towels and all of the necessities that you need when you're first married. But she registered for silverware. She picked out a specific pattern, how many sets she wanted, and even a service set of large spoons and salad serving. The wedding came and went, and to their surprise, they did not receive one piece of silverware. They kind of laughed about that and just went on with life. And that, like most of us, when they were first married, finances were tight, but she slowly would save money as she got money as gifts or had odd jobs that she was able to earn money. She would slowly save, put that away, and each time she had enough, she would go down to that department store and get a piece of silverware. Sometimes just a fork, sometimes just a knife. Eventually, she had enough pieces that they had enough settings that they could invite friends over and use their silverware. Oftentimes, before the guests would come over, they would discuss what silverware they should use, the mismatched stainless or the beautiful silverware. The husband often voted for the mismatched stainless because that could be thrown into the dishwasher, where the silver required work. It had to be hand-washed, hand-dried, had to be wrapped into a lint tarnish-free cloth, and if there were any tarnish, you had to rub it out with the silver polish. Over the years, he watched his wife with this silverware and thought many a time she was a bit eccentric when it came to it. Then one day he realized and said, "I realized she had known for a long time something that I was just beginning to understand. If you want something to last forever, you treat it differently. You shield it, you protect it, you never abuse it. You don't expose it to the elements, you don't make it common or ordinary. If it ever becomes tarnished, you lovingly polish it until it gleams like new. It becomes special because you have made it so, and it grows more beautiful and precious as time goes by. Marriage is just like that. It is something that becomes precious and special because you made it so, and it requires time and work."
We're going to take turns here for just a few minutes. I appreciate, well, I don't necessarily appreciate this first story she told, but I promise you I have learned how to get wet washcloths and take them into the bathroom. But boy, that story, as much as I don't appreciate it being told all the time, it sure drives that point home that we're different. We're different not just because the one is a jerk and the other is not. We're just raised differently, and sometimes those things conflict with each other, and it's okay as long as we're able to work those things out. We'll cover a little more of that in a bit. Do you remember, as you think back, and some don't have to think back too far, and some of us do, but do you remember those feelings you felt as a newlywed? That passionate romantic feelings that you had, over time, they tend to linger but go away a little bit, don't they? And I'm not saying that exactly right, but with her example of the silverware, that romantic passion tends to fade or dim over time. And we can polish, and that's part of what we need to do to keep our marriage good and strong. But really, those things take on a little bit different of meaning and feeling as we get older, don't they? As we're a little more mature in age, those same romantic, passionate feelings aren't there like they used to be, but it's different. And it's not in a bad way, they're just different because we as a person, or both people, have grown and have matured in a lot of ways. And our relationship has matured in so many ways that it's not focused anymore on that passionate, romantic part, even though that should be something that we deal with and work with, and I'll talk about that a little bit too. But our relationships take on a different and a broader meaning and purpose. But the experiences that we go through help shape those things, whereas when we're first married, we haven't had those experiences yet. And so our love and our relationship does need that continued polishing. But even though we polish away, as we should, it will still change. We've all heard that our relationship needs to be 50-50, right? I grew up hearing that, I'm sure you did too, and I quickly jumped on the bandwagon saying, yes, it's 50-50. You cook the food, I'll eat it, and you wash the clothes, I'll earn 50-50, right? And that's funny to say, but it's absolutely not true. A marriage relationship needs to be 100-100. And if we're only giving 50%, waiting for our spouse to come and give the other 50%, not only will we probably always be disappointed, but we're never giving all of us. We're never giving all of our hearts to our spouse. And that requires both. And sisters, I realize that the men need this talk more than you do. But as we're here and looking to increase the goodness or the happiness that's in our marriage, we oftentimes have to look inward and say, well, what am I giving? Not just what am I taking away, but what am I getting here? Last thought before we switch back is that in a marriage, we're not expected to change our personalities. But I think what we are expected to change are our habits, or at least some of them. Because, again, we grew up differently, different personalities, different homes, whatever it may be. If we are not changing, at least to some degree, if I'm never willing to get that wet washcloth and to go and stand at the toilet with my wife, which makes me nauseous, then I'm not doing my 100%. I'm not giving of myself in that way that will help her. Is that something I can change? Absolutely. Will it help her, bless her? Sure. Makes her feel good. And it's something small and little and maybe even seemingly insignificant, but it's important to her. And so I change. And I'm not perfect either. But there are definitely things as we go through time that we are able to adapt and to say, I can do something better. I can do something a little different here. Most of what you're going to hear in the next few minutes are from the thoughts from my wife. She is the one that kind of came up with these thoughts and ideas, but much of it will center around a talk from President Packer in our most recent conference, his last address, so I'll let her continue.
I really had no idea we talk about my growing up so much. I'm a theme person. I like themes, and I can concentrate a little bit easier. And as we were discussing all these different thoughts and ideas, I remembered our sweet Boyd K. Packer's last conference talk about marriage, and he has the now infamous quote of that the two essential ingredients to a successful marriage are a cookie and a kiss. When I heard that, I thought, oh, he's so sweet. Is it really that simple? And I thought about the acronym KISS and what it stands for, and which would be kindness, intimacy, service, and support. And I thought about those 4 things and how we could apply those in our marriage to magnify love in it. That first word, kindness. For each of us, kindness or love looks and feels totally different. Not only is it different for you and I, but it's also different for he and I. For some people, kindness or love is shown by bringing home, when your husband brings home flowers, or leaves you a card, or I used to love it when my husband would arrange for the babysitter. I didn't even care if we went out. The fact that I didn't have to get a babysitter was like the best thing in the world. That to me was so much love. Take time to find out, first of all, how you feel love, so you can let him know, and find out how he feels love. How does it feel for him? For me, when our kids were younger, I used to feel like I showed my husband such love by caring for the kids, having an orderly house, having dinner ready, having ran errands, taken the dry cleaning, whatever it was. I felt like I was expressing love to him through that. But really all he wanted was to come home and be acknowledged. He loved it if I got off of the couch or stopped what I was doing with the kids and acknowledged that he came home. And I gave him some undivided attention. He didn't even care that the dishes were dirty. I thought that he would. He didn't care about that. He just wanted me. And so I had to find out how he perceived love. Many times we think if we feel it one way that they must feel it the other, but it's rarely the case. Growing up, my mother often quoted Thumper's mother in saying, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. And I want to touch briefly on that, of showing love through kind words. I think it seems like so many problems that come up could easily be solved if we just spoke kindly to one another. As mothers, it comes naturally for us to know that speaking kindly to our children results in positive behavior. I think that as women, because we have been, our Heavenly Father made it that way, that we have that automatic mothering nature, it's easy for us to apply that to our children. But do we apply it to our husbands and realize that they're exactly the same way? That as we speak kindly to them, they respond positively back. Do we realize that speaking to them kindly is showing love? And that do we realize that being a wife is our first calling and not a mother? Sister Linda K. Burton suggested, yes?
I'm sorry, I just remembered. I just had a comment. It's over right now. Okay. We were talking about showing love and how to show love to your husband, and I had a thought come to my mind about how I discovered how to find out how my husband wants love to be shown to him.
Yeah.
Because I like to serve. That's the way I feel like I show love to him. And so what do I do? Show love as I serve, right? And I expect
Would you like to come up and finish the class? Emily, how long have you been married?
Almost 6 years.
And you're just like light bulb experience, right? It doesn't come at year one, does it? And it doesn't come on your own. It comes through discussing and just talking about that. That is spot on. Just because I feel love from clean dishes doesn't mean he does. So, and it's true. I'm cleaning the dishes because love me, dang it. Go clean dishes, you know? Okay. We do those things that we want reflected back. It's kind of that thumper idea, you know, that idea that if we want him to speak kindly to us, we have to speak kindly to him. It's a two-way, 100%, 100%. Back to Sister Burton at our last conference. I love this. She gave us some questions to think about how we speak kind to others, specifically our spouse. When was the last time I sincerely praised my companion, either alone or in the presence of our children? Think about it. When was the last time I thanked, expressed love for, or earnestly pleaded in faith for him or her in prayer? When was the last time I stopped myself from saying something I knew could be hurtful? When was the last time I apologized and humbly asked for forgiveness without adding the words, "But if only you had," or "if only you hadn't"? When was the last time I chose to be happy rather than demanding to be right?
Before we get to the I in KISS, I want to reiterate that being able to praise your spouse in front of others, it not only does something to whoever you're talking to, but it does something to them. And I made it a habit early on in our marriage to, behind her back, tell people how happy I was about different things or how good she was at different things. And it was not in a way that I was lying about it or not true, that I was just trying to get points or anything. But I know the effect that it has. I promise you, if I would have never praised the way that my wife bakes bread, she would never make it. But I do. And anytime my mother is very known for baking. She's just one of the best. But anytime anyone ever brings that up, I say, she's awesome. She's the best in the world, except for my wife. She makes it better. And I'm honest. And to my sister sitting here, please don't tell Mom I said that. But it's absolutely true. And I know she's here listening to this, but how do you think that makes her feel? How would your husband feel if something got back around and someone said, "Hey, you know what? I was talking with your wife in the group and she said how much she appreciated the way you did this. She said how good of a husband you were or how great of a father you were to the children." How do you think that makes him be? I promise you that if he doesn't feel he's good at that thing, he's going to try and be forevermore now because he has to live up to that. I know that's true. The I in KISS, we felt, would stand for intimacy. Many times in interviews, I'll ask a couple separately or together about intimacy in the relationship. And they will quickly get a little bit shy or red in the face because I'm asking, and they automatically think I'm talking about sexual relationship, which that part is certainly part of it, but I said, no, I don't necessarily mean the sexual part. The intimacy in a relationship has got to be there, but it can be and should be things like holding hands, or the touch on the shoulder, or a hug, or a kiss, or just sitting next to each other on the couch, or holding hands in the car as you're driving. Little things that are touches, or that are intimate things that you don't do with other people, are all part of intimacy, and they're important. And they, as we discussed yesterday, but they're a silent way to be able to say, I love you to somebody. And darn it, they're important. They're important all the time. At night, one of the things that my wife would do for me, and I never even asked her to do it, we'd sit on the couch together, she'd swing my legs up and start rubbing my feet. And I love that. I love that she loves to do it, and it makes me happy. We love to hold hands wherever we go. We've had so many just wonderful, intimate hugs in front of the kitchen sink. It can be as simple as that, to be able to express and show affection and love. The sexual intimacy part certainly has to be there. And it's a representation of the goodness that's in our marriage relationship. As I mentioned before, that part of our relationship, it shouldn't be, as we grow older and mature in our relationship, that shouldn't be the focal point or the only thing that makes us happy or be the content of our relationship. The reason why is that as we have experiences with our spouse along the way, we change, and that love grows that I spoke about earlier. The sexual part of our relationship still needs to be there, and for each individual relationship, that'll be different. The frequency and the timing of it will be different, but it should be there. But it comes as a result of the happiness that's already in the marriage. It doesn't create it. Does that make sense? It's a representation of what happiness should already be there. But much of this has to be done and worked out through conversation with our spouse. And there's got to be some compromising and some give and take, because inevitably, wherever we are in our age and so forth, the desires and the drives for us and our spouse are not always going to be the same. Am I right? Yeah, a lot of nodding heads, that's right. But how do we work through that? And I just submit that we can't unless we talk about it in a good and a wholesome way. And it can't be in an elevated or selfish way. It has to be in a way that, how can we work together to make all parts of our marriage be satisfying to us and to each other? And sisters, again, I realize that this probably needs to be said more to the brethren than even to you. But as you foster that relationship and being able to encourage communication in letting your spouse know, this is how I feel, and this is why, and this is the way I would like to see things happen. And then you allow both sides to be, and you work together. It will be a richer and a more enjoyable experience that way. This blends right into our next topic, the next part of the acronym, which is an S for service. Maybe you haven't experienced this, and I'm going to get pretty, I'm going to tell you more than you probably want to know about me. There are times where I feel like in our relationship that I wish there was more in these different areas. And I think to myself, well, I'm just not getting what I need from her in this area. And before I know it, I'm frustrated about a lot of different things. And I have found, and I've learned about me. And when I start feeling that way, and I start getting a little worked up about different things, I have to pause and think, I know that I'm having these feelings because of me. And what I realize is that as I look for ways to serve and to love her, things change in our relationship. As I work harder at it, things change. Does that mean that she's changing? Probably not. It's probably just me that's changing. But really, it doesn't matter who's changing, it just matters that things are getting better. And that our marriages usually aren't just a constant. There's hills and valleys, right? What we hope is they're not big hills and big valleys. But as I look inward, what I find is that when I look for opportunities to serve, especially in those times when I feel that way, things change and suddenly they get better. And I don't think there's any coincidence there. I just feel that as each of us look inward in our relationships on ways that we can serve and give service to our spouse, we will see changes from the other end. But if we're always waiting for them to serve us first, this is never going to work. We got to start with us. Real quickly, when I was a little boy, my little brother and I got in a big fight, and it was one of those big brother fights that happens, and by the time Dad pulled us apart, we were hot and sweaty and mad at each other, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Son, you need to go and apologize to your brother to make this right." I said, No, he's the one that started it, and so it's got to be him. I don't care who started it. You need to be the one to go and to fix it and tell him you're sorry. Well, I just thought that was the craziest idea in the world. Why wouldn't you start with the one who started it? What I didn't realize is that later he took my brother aside and said the exact same thing to him. Now, that little boyhood memory, those things always got worked out, and we always ended up hugging it out and being fine. But that same principle is true in our marriage relationship as well. It doesn't matter who said what or who did what. Go make it right. And don't let always it be the same person in the relationship that always is the one to fix it or to say, "I'm sorry." Let's be quick to be the one to say, "I'm sorry." And you know what? You're entitled to have a bad day. And so is your spouse. But hopefully we just don't have them on the same day. And hopefully we can just let each other go, "You know what? I know you're having a bad day. I'm going to be the big one here and just let you vent or let you go," or whatever it may be. But ask him if he'll do the same for you when you're having a real bad day and you just need it. And you may tell him in the moment, "This is my day. Remember, we get to take turns. This is my day. Please help me through this." And I promise you, as you do, the sanctity will be there, but also that love and support will be there as well.
We have done that to each other. We have literally said, "This is my turn." The last S goes hand in hand with service, and that's the support side of it. In a chapter about the families in the church handbook, it contains a statement that says that the nature of male and female spirits is such that they complete each other. Sister Linda K. Burton wisely taught, "Please note that it does not say compete with each other, but complete each other." We are here to help, lift, and rejoice with each other as we try to become our very best selves. There is so much more of happiness to be had when we can rejoice in another's success and not just in our own. When we seek to complete rather than compete, it is so much easier to cheer each other on. Brothers and sisters, we need each other. As covenant-keeping women and men, we need to lift each other and help each other become the people the Lord would have us become. I debated whether or not to share this. Is very personal. As many of you know, recently I went through a long period of great illness. It was a life-changing event for me and for my family. During this time, many people came in to to the rescue and supported me in areas that I am sure I don't even know. And in personal areas, people cleaned my house, carpooled, sent me hilarious cards, flowers. I can't even say the things that happened, but by far, my husband was my biggest support. You remember that throwing up story? He has it down. He was my constant and a positive figure throughout it all. His support at times was what got me through a day or a really dreaded procedure. But even how meaningful that was, more meaningful are the daily things. We just recently took a little trip. We celebrated our 25th anniversary, but we had girls' camp and we had trek and we had a lot of responsibilities, and that got pushed aside. And so we decided we were going to go on a little trip, and as we were planning, trying to figure out when to go, we thought, well, we've got 3 days that we don't have meetings or anything, we could do these 3 days. And my husband is quite spontaneous, and he's like, let's go for a week. And then I looked at my calendar and I was like, well, okay, I can reschedule this, I can reschedule that. Can you go for a week? And he's like, yeah, I'll have President Cliff take care of it, no problem. I was like, okay. And so we left and we're gone for a week. And when we were gone, it got brought up that one of the things that he had to reschedule was a meeting with 5 other state presidents in the Queen Creek area. And I was like, what? You rescheduled that? He's like, yep. I told President Zim, my first calling takes priority, and I need to serve in my first calling. That made me feel so important. When you get that kind of support, it made me want to be a better wife. It made me want to be more supportive and realize that my first calling is him. And give him a priority. Kind of that exact same thing that Emily said. If I want the support, I have to be willing to give it. I love when he supports me in my crazy, stupid, overwhelming ideas. I take things and I get a bit obsessed with them, and he just, oh, that's great. And I appreciate that just as much as the big things, the little things. Sisters, I have a testimony of the plan of salvation and the plan of happiness, and I know that through the plan of happiness we're able to reach our highest potential only if we enter into the new and everlasting covenant. I'm grateful for our loving Heavenly Father who realized that man should not be alone and created a helpmeet for us. I am so very grateful for my husband. He is the secret to our happy marriage. And I pray that each one of us in our marriage will see it as a priceless gift. It's truly that. It's a gift. It's a privilege. I am grateful for this gospel and for the support that we can give one another. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
We're almost done. I just want to close with a couple thoughts. Why do we have struggles and trials in our marriages? That has been something I've wondered about for a long time. And I don't think any of us are exempt from that. Well, there may be a few, because I've heard in conference some of the general authorities stand up, and I think it was even at President Packer's funeral, and one of his sons stood up and spoke and said, I've never heard them argue or have a disagreement. I thought, who are these people? He truly must be a prophet and born that way, because the rest of us work through these changes and things that happen. I guess I would just say that I really think we have struggles and trials so that we're able to grow together and be even stronger. It feels like that even in my own family, my own immediate family, those that as a little boy that I argued with and fought with of my siblings the most, I'm probably the closest with today. And why is that? And it may just been the repetition of having those experiences and making up and being able to say I'm sorry, and that personal bond and connection comes. I love my oldest sister like no other, but she and I are 10 years apart and never had that bonding thing that happens because we were so far apart in age. By the time I was even close to being a teenager, she was married and out of the house. I love her dearly, but that connection and that relationship isn't as strong as it is with my other siblings that are closer to my age. I just feel like as we have trials and things that we have to deal with in our marriages, that as we overcome them, whether it's health, whether it's an addiction, or no matter what it may be that we struggle in our marriage with trying to overcome, then we're going to be stronger as we get to the tail end of that. And that will happen with every one of those experiences that we have. Over the course of this, we talked about KISS, that acronym. Well, remember in Elder Packer's talk, he said a cookie and a kiss. Well, we have for each of you sisters, and I really hope we have for each of you sisters. We've got like 90 of them, and so, yeah, they told us 70. It looks like there's a few more of you than that. But we've got a cookie for you to take home. It's kind of a little token from this class to remember these things. But for your cookie that you take home, and even, you may want to share this cookie with your husband, but find out what your cookie is in your marriage. The cookie and the kiss. We've talked about the kiss part of it, those things. Find out what the cookie part of it is. What is sweet in your marriage that you can give to each other? Those little things that are just the added whatever. Find those things out and let your cookie up. I just want to close with a scripture, and I call it scripture because it was from General Conference, one of our prophets. In fact, Elder Perry, in his last talk here before he passed away. My brothers and sisters, the restored gospel centers on marriage and family. It is also on marriage and family that we can unite most with other faiths. It is around marriage and family we'll find our greatest commonality with the rest of the world. It is around marriage and family that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has the greatest opportunity to be a light on the hill. Let me close by bearing witness, and my 9 decades on this earth fully qualify me to say this, that the older I get, the more I realize that family is the center of life and is the key to eternal happiness. And how true that is. I'm grateful for my good wife and that our family was established June 1st, 1990. And I tell everybody that I meet and we talk about marriages that I married up. And that is absolutely the truth. And there is no way that I would be even part of who I am without my parents, but also without my good wife, who helps me want to be better. And I'm grateful to each of you for being women of God and for your nature to be kind and generous and giving and loving. I hope that this has been an uplifting experience for each of us today. I know as we have prepared, it's been uplifting for us. I just bear testimony this is God's church. And in this church, we have such wonderful opportunities to serve, but to live and to grow. And I testify of His Son, Jesus Christ, that He is real. He leads and guides our church in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.